We have yet another question in from a subscriber. This is coming in from Tomiwa Unscripted. She asks, if I want to use this camera, meaning the Sony ZV-E10, for Reels and TikToks, as well as vlogging and YouTube sit-down videos, what lens would be best? Well, Tomiwa, thanks for the question. And I did watch your video so I can know how to pronounce your name correctly. But if I still got it wrong, please correct me to help pronounce your name better. I would love to get that right if I didn't. Now, this is a great question because there are a lot of content creators that honestly want to do the same thing, and it would be great if we had one lens to rule them all. But I'm gonna try to get you as close as to what you want based on your requirements, which we got 3 of them. The first one you're saying for TikTok and for Reels, the second one for vlogging, number 3 for sit-down videos. Now for TikTok videos, Instagram Reels, any kind of vertical video content, you literally could use any camera for that. But for the lens, if you already have the ZV-E10, I like to use something that honestly looks better than the kit lens. For me, that would be going with the Sigma 16. However, it does not meet the other requirements that you're looking for when it comes to vlogging. And that's really the main thing. It's fine for sit-down videos and it'd be fine for vertical video content. That's actually what I use. But this camera just doesn't have what I would think we need, which is optical steady shot, because the Sony ZV-E10 does not have stabilization on the sensor. It has digital stabilization and access to Sony Catalyst Browse, which is honestly the best stabilization that this camera has available, but it just takes time. You have to take each individual file, render it out, and then start editing it or send it to your editor. That's frustrating. We are not trying to do all that, but that would be the best option. Now, as close to the other categories when it comes to vlogging, meeting the requirements for a sit-down video as well as your vertical video content, number 1 might surprise you, the kit lens. Now, the kit lens is not anything to write home about, and most people honestly hate it, but it does a few things right. Number 1, it has optical steady shot in it. Number 2, it is at a 16mm focal length, so you can get it pretty wide. However, you don't get a constant aperture, which means as you zoom in and out, unlike maybe the 10 to 20 or 10 to 18 f4 lens by Sony. So that constant aperture lets you zoom in and out without the aperture changing. That's that F number at the bottom of your screen on your camera. But with the kit lens, it will change. So even if you had it at an f3.5, if you twist the lens and you zoom in, all of a sudden now you have an aperture that changes, which impacts your ISO, and it's not the best. However, when you're vlogging, you kind of are using some automatic settings. It's only a few really creative snobs, I think, honestly, or if you're doing some form of a filmmaking, or you're just very particular on how you want things when it comes to vlogging, that are literally trying to set every little dial for the aperture should be this for this shot and it should be this for the ISO. I think most of us that are vlogging, if you value capturing and documenting whatever your experience is and the joys around that, versus so much so getting kind of bogged down with camera settings and all of that. So if you're outdoors, the kit lens honestly going to be fine because you're trying to show more of what's around you and you're trying to show what's actually in the scene instead of blurring the background most of the time. Now, another prime lens, if you did want to go that route and have the blurry background, active stabilization is available in the camera, and you will have seen standard stabilization. Those are not available to you when you're using the ZV-E10 and a third-party lens. Unless the lens has optical steady shot, usually the Sony branded lenses, certain ones, then you'll see active and standard available. Otherwise, if you're using a third-party lens like a Rokinon 12mm f2 lens, even those new Sony 11mm f1.8 lens, that's really cool and would be great in this scenario for vlogging, but it has no optical steady shot. So you're still either stuck with active stabilization that isn't great. Like when you look at the performance of the FX30, that's what I would love to have in the ZV-E10, but I doubt we get that update. I would honestly stay away from a prime lens. And the lens that I think would be the second best option would be the Tamron 11 to 20mm f2.8 lens. This is great. It's wide enough for your TikToks and you can do anything that you want to do, similar to like the 10-18, maybe bring in other people. You also have a great sharp lens that you could zoom in, still get that 16, even 20mm focal length to get a shot like this at f2.8. So it's pretty versatile. Again, the only place that it falls short is for vlogging, which leads me into my third recommendation, which would be the 10 to 18 f4 lens. Here's the kicker here. This is a constant aperture lens. That's why you see it has specifically noted the f4 instead of like a f3.5 to 5.6. You zoom in and out and it'll stay at f4, so the aperture is not going to change, which is really great when you're vlogging. Only problem I have found using this as my only lens when I'm traveling, sometimes you do want to zoom in and you can get that extra reach going in from 18 and then adding like a 2x crop if you're recording in 1080p and a 1.5 times crop if you're going all the way to 4K. I don't tend to vlog in 4K unless I'm doing like a dedicated video, but even then I'll still sometimes just do 1080p for the amount of footage that I'm doing. That's just a personal choice. So the question is really kind of skewed because it depends which one do you value more. Do you want to have just like try to find just one great lens? I think it would be the Tamron 11 to 20 millimeter and maybe throwing in the kit lens when you do want to go out and vlog. But I think this situation is going to require for you to have two lenses instead of just one lens. And that kind of sucks because I wish we did have something like the 11 to 20 millimeter f2.8 with the optical steady shot in it, but alas, no lens like that exists. Now, if you do want to use this 10 to 18 f4 lens for vlogging, like I said, I think it's honestly a fantastic lens. You are going to be fine in lower light situations. Only thing, just kind of be careful if you are going into like a pitch dark scenario and you're kind of leaving the camera in auto. It can look a little wonky sometimes, but otherwise you're great. But there are 5 settings that I would recommend that you change, and that video is coming up next. I would highly encourage you to check it out. If you're going to go with the lens, you want to use it for vlogging, just on the go content creation, 5 settings I think will be greatly needed when you start doing all of this. Check out the video coming up on the screen because I think it'll serve you well.